how exactly do you decide when to raise?
The market rewards you for raising money, much more the issue. But the hard part is not to raise money, it's to get customers to pay, to subscribe, to extend. That's the hard part.
Hey, Bootstrappers! Welcome to Bootstrap Stories, the podcast where founders, marketers, and thoughtful leaders share the most actionable tips on building a successful business. After meeting with hundreds of bootstrappers in the past years, I figured out that we all struggle to grow our businesses. But the truth is that most of us don't know where to ask for help or advice. That's why I decided to start this podcast, to give you all the keys to succeed at every stage of your business. All the tested strategies for solving your struggles and taking your business to a new level. No fluff, no bullshit, only a real talk between friends that help each other succeed.
Today, my guest for this episode is Nicolas Vandenberghe, CEO and co-founder of Chili Piper. Hey, Nicolas, and welcome to Bootstrap Stories.
Hey, thanks for having me.
I'm super excited to have you. We're two native French speakers, so for our listeners, we would get the little accent during this episode.
It's going to sound funny a little bit, yeah.
Because we were chatting in French just before. And for people who might not know about Chili Piper, can you give us a bit of background about the company, when you started and where you're at right now?
Yeah, so our core product is a thing called Form Concierge. It's a very simple problem that we solve. People come to a website, B2B companies. They want to have a demo. They fill a form. They submit a demo. I'd like to see a demo. They get a page, thank you, somebody's going to call you. And then they're left wondering who's going to call me when. And companies typically lose half their pipeline through that process because people don't call back or by the time they've moved on. So what we do is that we do a smart solution that based upon form submission, qualify the prospect, routes the right team, comes back with just a few slots, and 1 click later, the meeting is booked. So typically we get our customers to go from 40% conversion rate to 80, 90% conversion rate. So that's our core product. It's called Concierge, and then we've built around it. The company is now 240 employees.
Wow.
I think like you guys, we're fully remote. I'm very proud of that. We have people in 180 different cities and 40 different countries. So
that's huge.
All over the world, yeah.
And that's a topic of interest. Going back a bit to the numbers, you started being bootstrapped for about 2 years, and then after that you decided to raise, and you had like a seed, Series A, Series B. Is that correct?
That's right.
Okay.
Happening on very fast, yeah.
And why have you decided to kind of like make that switch from being bootstrapped to raise funds?
So there's more to the story, and since we have time, I'll tell the time. So I'm a repeat entrepreneur. It's like what I love to do. I love creating companies. So I've done companies before, and in like about 10 years ago, I was running a sales team, and they were all reluctant to use Salesforce. And I had to bribe them to use Salesforce. And I was looking at my daughters, and I had to bribe them to stop using the apps, right? And I'm thinking, this is a weird world where these people refuse to use the app, and these people refuse to stop using the app. So I thought I'm going to build a solution for sales and marketing, like the new generation of apps that people love using and make their life easy. And the first problem I found was that very problem that people don't want to use Salesforce. So I thought I'm going to build a smart system that updates Salesforce automatically. And that was 2013. So that's how I got started. But I always wanted to build cool tools for sales and marketing.
Nice.
So I built this solution that goes into their calendar, email, contacts, automatically find the information and update Salesforce. I started the company. Then I found that a company in Israel called Implicit had the same idea. And a company in San Francisco called RelateIQ also had the same idea. And they thought it was such a big idea that they should go and bundle it with their own CRM and go and kill Salesforce. And I thought, this is crazy. So I started that company. It was called Floating Apps 2013. And then I raised, at that time, $1.5 million from angels.
Okay.
Just to build the system before it could go. And then I found that some VP at Salesforce decided to buy the company in Israel, Implicit. So that was kind of bad news because no Salesforce, my main partner, had bought my competitor. And then Mark Benioff, 6 months later, spent 400 million to buy Really Take You and integrate it, right? So it's something that never happened to me in my many startups where my partner not only buys one, but two companies that are my competitors. So at some stage, my angel investor said, look, you're dead. Just you have to move on, you're dead. And so what I did is that we restarted with Alina. Alina came on board and we rebranded and restarted Chili Pepper. I said, okay, let's stay with the same vision, but start again. And at that time, it felt like it was super important to just find a problem that was clear and get to revenues as fast as possible, because we had this big vision of how the world of sales and marketing is going to change. But we were in that situation where, we had just gotten hit by a bus, and it really felt like we were not going to go with the grand vision. We're just going to put to focus. So that's the reason why we bootstrapped. So in a way, we always thought of a company as something that's going to grow big and going to be hopefully IPO someday. But we needed to start narrow. So that's why we bootstrapped. So the original plan was just to bootstrap for a year, right, and get revenues and that. But and what we started with was a very narrow problem that you're actually very familiar with. It was the handoff between SDRs and account executives. So when an SDR has a catch and is ready to book the meeting, then they have to find who's next in the round robin. If it's round robin, then find the calendar, create the invite, and it used to take them 7 minutes and they make a lot of mistakes. So we automated that process. But as you know very well, it's a very specific problem, and we never thought it was the future of a company. We just thought this is how we get started, and it worked really well. We started in January 16. We finished that product in 4 months. We had somebody prepay for it, so that we already had money for this product, a company called 5 Stars. Then we signed Greenhouse in New York in May. I got my first $6,000 check. And then we signed Square, we signed all these people. And what happened is that it worked really well. So we did better than we expected. And at the same time, the product was very unusual. So there was no interest from venture capitalists, right? They're basically going to invest in that little thing that does a handoff. So we just continued until we found this bigger problem that I mentioned, the form submission. And then when we did that, we did something amazing. This company called Segment did an A/B test to see if it's true that awesome. And they found that we doubled their pipeline. So they bought immediately. So then I thought, okay, VCs are going to be all over us. So I pinged a few VCs, and they still didn't understand what we were doing. So I thought, you know what, we're doing great. We can continue until the financial market catches up with us. Yes, yeah. And it did. It's that's funny. I don't know how it happened to you, but it happened at a very unusual time. So in early 2020. Actually, I caught COVID coming back from LA, and I thought, shit, this thing is going to be a disaster, and we may lose our company, because we had done a small seed. It was like a side thing, but essentially we were continuing operating as a bootstrap company, so with very little cash. So I thought this is super risky, but we did this payroll protection program that they have in the US, where you could get $300K free, pretty much, like you never have to reimburse. And we just didn't have layoffs. We just continued operating. And this month, March, April, May, we did very well. We lost some customers to COVID, but we also gained a lot of new customers. So then the VCs came all over us. It was crazy. We went from people not understanding to people begging me to take their money. And so then we thought, okay, now it's the time, right? We're going to go. And I'd been told that the world of funding these days is very asymmetrical, in that in the early days, nobody wants to fund you. But once you have signs of success, everybody wants to fund you. So you go from being the worst company in the planet to being the best company in the planet without even changing anything in your business. So that's the answer to a question. We always thought someday we'd raise money.
Okay.
It was a matter of when it's the right time and valuation, and do we have a plan that justifies spending money?
And how exactly do you decide when to raise? Is it based on revenue milestone, or is it more regarding the opportunity and whether or not you can have people, who are willing to spend for another round or add money when it's there?
Yeah, it's a very good question. Traditionally, in my previous company, in the previous world, it was the first path. So I'd go raise money when I achieved some milestones, and I'd looked for funding, and you look at how much money you have left. But now the world has changed. You have this heavy interest, as I mentioned, from VCs who have to deploy money. So it becomes much more opportunistic. So, for example, when we did our B round, we hadn't even touched our A round yet.
Wow. Okay.
but the opportunity came, and it was very compelling, and we took the money. So that's how we most likely will continue doing it. It's more opportunistic when we make sure that we have enough cash for a long time, and then we wait until the nice opportunity comes. What I found that I didn't expect, and it's something that's probably very relevant to you, is that the market rewards you for raising money much more than it should. So you and I know as entrepreneurs that the hard part is not to raise money, is to get customers to pay, to subscribe, to extend. That's the hard part. And if you say, look, I have 1,000 customers, and we passed 1,000 customers a while back, paying happy, that doesn't seem to impress people. But if you say, I did a Series B, 33 million from Tiger Global, then social networks are all over you. Yeah, right. Which is puzzling, because it's much less of an achievement, but it's how people think. So it has had a very positive impact on us. Especially the second, but even the first A round with base 10, to which Flashpoint contributed, was very visible and helped us. And the B round helped. So it helps us with employees, with customers, with general reputation, and much more than I expected.
And right now, what's kind of your current ARR or ballpark?
Yeah, we aiming for 30 to 35 this year.
Okay,
that's where we're going. Yeah.
And you want to raise at the end of the year, or just when you have the?
No, literally, like we said, I want to raise when somebody comes and give me an offer that I can't refuse.
Okay.
Which is exactly what happened with the B round. Right? And so a lot of VCs are reaching out to us, and I can tell that they're not going to do it. Right now, with the low market, they can't afford to go to the LPs and say, look how much I paid. I mean, it's not completely true, because I look at Rippling yesterday, and they raised at 11 billion, right? So obviously
there is still money.
Yeah, there's money, and there's I was going to say hope, more confidence, right? There's confidence that successful companies can be. So that may happen. It may happen. It could be the next month I call you back and I say, okay, we just did a C round, but it could be that it will be next year. Either way, we're okay. We have a plan. We're executing on our plan. We're having a blast.
Nice, which is the most important part. And I'm really curious because you are very driven with sales. So you have quite an important sales team with everyone being remote. I know you were managing prior to that a sales team. How exactly have you managed to build a strong culture in the sales team, and how right now kind of are you structured within the team?
Yeah, so I'll give you a funny anecdote. When we started, we were remote from the beginning, and we thought, okay, now it's time to build an SDR team. So you are right that sales is my background. So at the beginning, I was a salesperson. So, and I had call. I wasn't very advanced digitally. I would just go to events and just talk to people, because I love talking to people. So that was my sales motion. I'd hit on people, hey, do you have a sales team? Yeah. Do you have SDRs? Yeah. How do you book your meetings? How about we do a demo? And I'd book a demo on my phone. So when we came to build an SDR team, and I enjoyed it, so it worked. Since we sell to SDRs, I look at our customers and I look which teams are the best performing. And I found in our customer base, I don't know if you do that, but you also have access to this information, a company in California where each SDR was booking between 60 and 80 meetings a month.
Wow.
Yeah, exactly. Wow. So I thought, okay, I want that guy who's making that happen. So, as luck would have, we started talking, and he was interested in making a move. So he came to work for us, and he said, look, the way to do it is that you need to the SDR team all together is critical. I know you have a remote world, but it's critical to have the SDR all together. I said, okay, in that case, we're going to build an SDR team in Culver City, in LA, California. So we start hiring. And I was nowhere near 60 to 70 meetings a month. It wasn't working. We were booking like 3 or 4. We were struggling with our team of SDRs. And then, as luck would have it, that person we hired wanted to move to San Francisco.
Okay.
So he conveniently changed his mind on whether it was important to not be there or not be there. And in the end, we started hiring remotely. And what we did, to answer your question of how we motivate people, we do everything on Zoom and on Slack, and we have a lot of rituals. So things that build the team. And the funny thing is that it's not like we thought of this ritual, we didn't think of it. We just thought of the things that would be fun to do. So every Friday we have a company meeting, and we honor the animal of the week. The person who's like, oh, he's so good, he's an animal, or she's an animal. Right. So that's very, very visible. We also have the unicorn of the week, the person who is so helpful and so aligned with our values of help. That the person has one. We have, of course, like channels for closed deals, meetings booked, right? And we encourage one another. Then we have a thing called Make Piper's Meeting Happen. So this is the piece I love the most. Because we are remote, people tend to be travelers. Like a lot of people who apply to companies like yours or mine are people who enjoy being in different places, right? And think that life is too short to not visit other countries. So when they fly to different places, then we pay for dinner and accommodation to get together. Right? Okay. So there's a Slack channel, Make Piper's Meeting Happen. And this is the most amazing thing. You see, we just got together in Brazil at this festival. We just got together in South Africa. We just got together in Atlanta or in Nashville. And so they're even though they're not together, they occasionally get together. And when they do, it's to party. Right? We pay for the booze and the restaurant, and it's not to review the numbers and check who's doing what. It's to party. So that gives a very special relationship to one another. With anytime you can meet, and it's somebody. It doesn't have to be within the sales team. It's anybody in the company to get together. So that does seem to work to create a bond among our team members. And then the last piece is that once a year we get together for something completely extravagant. So it got more extravagant as we raised more money when we bootstrap. The first trip was that's right, exactly. The first trip was India, so it was on the cheap. Then we did Paris, which was nice especially for our American friends. Then I wanted to do the closing of the Pasha Club in Ibiza. So I decided to take everybody and we go do that. And that was amazing. And then a bunch of our team members were in Tulum. They were sending us pictures of their life in Tulum. And I said, I want everybody to have that life. So we all flew to Tulum. That was last year. It was amazing. And this year we're going to the deserts of Morocco.
Wow. Nice.
Yeah. To like have our own Burning Man event and on the Chili Pepper.
How many people do you have in your HR team to organize all these things?
That's a great question. For the longest time, we had 0.
Okay.
And now we have, ironically, the person who organized all these things is so the Make Piper's Meeting Happen. People self-organized. Okay. The trip once a year, ironically, the person who organized it is an amazing product manager. She's a team lead. We just loves traveling and does an amazing job with it. So it's not even done by people, our people team. Our people team has 2 legs. One is recruiting. So now we have 3 or 4 people full-time on recruiting. as we need to grow. And the other piece that most companies at our stage don't have is coaching.
Okay.
So we have 3 people whose job is all about coaching. And the reason why we did that is that I was thinking about what I would expect from a company. If I join a company, what would I want? And I thought I want 2 things. I want freedom and flexibility. I can work anywhere I want. That's amazing. But I also want professional growth. So from the very beginning, we said, look, when you come in, you tell us what you want to grow into, right? You have to do what we call a plan, a Piper plan, to tell us what is it you're interested in, how you see your future. If you're an SDR, do you want to become an account executive? Do you want to be an SDR leader? Do you want to change? Think about where you want to grow. And we're going to try the company to get you there as fast as possible and as seamlessly as possible. So we started with this plan. Then if we're really serious about it, we have to have somebody manage them. So we hire that person, and as we grew, we now have three people who have people focused on growth. And we are also one of the few companies that don't have retention targets. Because the idea is that if we help you grow, then maybe you don't want to grow in our company. You want to grow doing something else, or it's not a match. So we actually have high retention. We don't have a churn problem. But if somebody decides to leave, then we very supportive and say this is part of the deal that we help you. So our people team, the answer we must be. So 4 in recruiting plus 3, but there's nobody. We have no one person who helps in the more operational piece. But it's very recent. Until now, we didn't have anybody to take care of these things. It was just self-organizing.
Nice. That's really impressive. And the type of profile that you hire as kind of like coach, what were they doing like before? Because there are not a lot of companies who are doing that. So was it like coaches who decided to join full-time, or were they just like HR who wanted to be more focused on people growth? And what is kind of like their scope in terms of coaching and things that they can implement to help your employees grow?
Yeah, so the answer to your first question is that they were coaches, so people who are typically already, there are some certifications now in the world of coaching. So they were typically certified.
Okay.
The scope, it's interesting because when she started, she said, we have this particular problem with some of the marketing team members. And I said, okay, well, tell me. And she said, well, I can't tell you. I said, what do you mean you can't tell me? You work for Chili Piper, you tell me. She said, well, no, I'm a coach. If I help them, I can't tell you. So that was a very interesting dynamic. It's like, do we have coaches that work for the company, therefore should tell me or not? And we decided that it was the right thing to do, that they operate like coaches, like you would get from the outside. So the scope is what an outside coach would do, helping you grow your career. So it can be, it's typically both career goals and then operational improvement. So, for example, if people have a hard time managing, right, they will help them say, how do you do managers? If you have a hard time managing up, and so it's both career and actual personal improvement. And the feedback is great. I mean, people said our three coaches are amazing, and our employees finding very valuable that we do that. We also have, if we're talking about people, then I have to mention something we're doing that I'm super excited about. I stumbled upon, last year when we raised our B round, we decided it was 33 million. Alina and I went to the board and said, we're going to take 1 million and move into a foundation to do good.
Okay.
It was actually funny because they say, maybe you don't do 1 million. I said, look, if we don't do 1 million, we're not serious. So we do 1 million. So we put 1 million in the foundation. And the do good that we want to do with Alina is try to eliminate violence. The way I think of the world is that now that we've eliminated slavery, that we have understood that racism should not happen, then the next step in humankind is violence. Nobody should be violent against one another, not verbally, not physically. No. And I stumbled upon a book called Non-Violence Communication. Are you familiar with this book?
Yeah. I mean, I've studied quite a lot nonviolent communication because I find it like super interesting. But yeah, continue.
Well, so it was Christmas, last Christmas, and I just couldn't believe it. And so so of course I took to the coaches and said, "Oh yeah, of course we know about it. It's a good thing." So we started making it part of our onboarding process, the nonviolent communication, and we started doing these workshops on nonviolent communication. So our goal is to train everybody in the company on becoming a nonviolent communicator. So actually, I have this little this is the sun to remind me that we should be focused on nonviolent communication. So I'm super excited about this project. I think it can be life changing to go through the process and become a nonviolent communicator. And if I can change not only my life but the life of 240 people, who in turn will change the life of all the people around them, then it's a side effect of it's a side effect of building a company I would have never anticipated.
And I think like that's really interesting to understand how you've been building like such a team in very like a short amount of time. And I'm curious to understand, like you were mentioning at the very beginning, you were the one doing sales, going at events, closing deals, getting that first 6K from Greenhouse, and then moving to like other companies. What was kind of like the big, I would say, like phase and transition towards your growth, and what were the acquisition channels that you've used the most to drive such a hyper growth overall?
Yes. So the nice thing about our product is that it has a viral aspect. So when you book a meeting with Chili Pepper, say, well, that was cool. And then you say, I want to try it out. So from the beginning, that has been helpful to us. From the beginning, we had inbound prospect that came not of our marketing efforts, just of the fact that our product is viral. So that was actually the majority of our sales. I mean, sure, obviously, it only started once I had closed enough deals for them to be in the market. But so quickly, we started getting this inbound interest. And so I hired account executives at first, and that was driving the business. And to these days, is still a large portion of our business. Then I built, as I mentioned, the SDR team to try to have an outbound and be more targeted. Then that drove our business and still does today. It's close to half. And it's only later than too late that I did the marketing motion. So all the stuff you do great at Lemlist, the content, community, these things. Looking back, it's definitely something I would have started much earlier. And things that
we all want to start marketing earlier, I think.
Yeah, that's right. But look, So some people have more regrets than others.
And
so that's where we are today. It's a relatively balanced now among all of these motions. We're making a lot of progress on the marketing front. We continue growing our SDR team, and the product-led pipeline is still strong.
And how big is the sales team right now?
So we will have about let's say 30 SDRs, 20 plus AEs, and 15 to 20 account managers. Account manager is very important to us because we have cross-selling. We have new products, additional products that we want to expand.
And your account managers, are they also doing support, or do you have a dedicated support team that answers also like questions?
Yeah, I'll tell you a funny story on that one. Because it's a question that a lot of people have, which is, should CS be responsible for booking the renewal, for example, right? What is CS? Do they sell? Do they cross-sell? Why why not? So when we started, I was doing all the closing, and Alina was doing all the onboarding. So Alina is my wife and co-founder. She's head of product. So she'd do the onboarding. People would love her and buy more licenses across. So I thought, okay, she's the way to do it. It makes sense. In sales, the key is to build trust, right? So by doing the onboarding really well, you build trust. And then once you have the trust, you just monetize it, so to speak, and sell more products. So I defined this role called relationship manager. And I started hiring for that role, which has this combination of customer success and account management, relationship manager. And then I went to the Gainside conference. Have you ever been to Pulse, the Gainside conference?
No,
okay,
never.
So it's in San Francisco. It's this Moscone Center, this giant building. I walk into the room. It's a giant room. There's a guy on stage with a suit and tie, looking very impressive. He said, "Hey, I'm the head of consulting at Vista Equity."
Okay.
So at Vista Equity, we buy companies, put best practices, and make them successful. And since we're here to talk about customer success, I'm going to give you my first advice. Do not put CS and account management together.
All right.
It is a completely wrong thing to do. And I'm thinking, okay, somebody is wrong in this room, and I'm going to find out who that is very soon. and sure enough, it was me who was wrong. This relationship manager didn't work at all, because the profile and vibe of a successful CSM is very different from the profile of an account manager. They're both around relationships, there's no question, but a CSM is all about helping. I had one of my CSM relationship manager at the time tell me, I said, but why didn't you offer to sell the other department, say? And he'd say, well, I didn't want to come across like I'm selling. I'm thinking, but you are selling. It's your job. That's what we decided. Oh, yeah. So it's still this vibe that the CSM are pure, helpful, and the account managers deal with contractual. So that's what we've done. It's working beautifully now. It's working beautifully. It's
nice.
The guy was definitely right.
No, that's really interesting. And what's typically like the account size that you are looking for?
We've been naturally successful with SaaS companies, so that's what has come to us, and I would say mostly mid-market, so people who have maybe 50 to 100 reps.
Okay,
it's been a sweet spot, but we also cater to smaller companies, because as soon as you have more than 5 reps, you want to make sure that you don't waste your inbound, and also you can book your meetings. And we've also had success with enterprise. Ironically, very early on, because our product addresses a complex problem, our product became very feature rich and deep. So for example, we already have the ability to do workspaces for different teams. The ability to do we're SOC 2 compliant very early on. We support single sign-on and all these things very early on, mostly because we were dealing with SaaS companies that were very forward-thinking, so they were asking us these things. So then we started getting a fair amount of business in the enterprise world. We have Facebook, Expedia into it as customers, so we want to push that motion. So
right now you're focusing going up market to enterprise, or
we know we're adding the enterprise motion. I wouldn't say we're focusing. We're not trying to leave our core business. We're just trying to add that motion because we can. So in the old days, you'd say, well, you have to focus here, you enterprise or you market. In the new days, you find a lot of companies that can cater to all of them. Not every business can happen that way, but if you look at Slack, they can start with a team of 3 and go all the way to Chase Bank, right? So it's now possible in the SaaS world that in the old days it was very different. When it was software on premises, you had to decide whether your software was on a tape that's loaded into an IBM computer or on a diskette that's loaded on a Mac. It was very different. Now it's all SaaS, so you can have different offerings of different tiers. So that's what we're doing.
And whenever you wanted to have this transition with, like SSO certifications, etc., to be able to close like these deals, what came to your mind? Because obviously, whenever you have to make these kind of like changes on your product, it means that the product team needs to be focused on specific things that will kind of like slow down the roadmap, etc. Like, so what's your strategy as a CEO to say, okay, guys, we have to do it? Or I'm going to rephrase the question. When exactly do you choose to go for it and, or to say no, actually?
Yeah. So it was always more DNA to be more on that side. As I mentioned, we didn't do a good job in the early days of building the bottom-up approach. We had the reality that our product, even the first product where we were doing the handoff, was quite complex. It was touching teams and fairness and how to set it up. So it was never something you would just put your credit card and go. It was always something you talk to us about it and what do we offer, how it works, and how they're going to solve the problem. And our new product, well, not new, but the second form concierge is even more complex. It's your inbound process or your inbound process. So it's not something you can try and say, I'm going to put half my inbound process on this process and the other than like people would get completely confused. So as a result, from the beginning, we've had to talk to our prospects, and we had this kind of a top-down approach, as opposed to bottom-up. So we're never strong in the bottom-up. So to answer your question, when people came in and say, "Hey, this is great, but I need you to support Okta," it was like, "Yeah, we support Okta because we have other companies that are asking for that." So we were always biased in that direction.
No, that's interesting. And right now, I guess like your goal is to reach 100 million in ARR in the coming years. So what's for you like the biggest challenge towards that goal?
You're absolutely right. That's our goal, and as fast as possible. The way we plan to get there is by expanding our product line. I think what we're finding is that, to my surprise, for 5 years, nobody chased us on our core business, and we could have gone much faster. But that form concierge, now finally people are thinking, oh, you hear companies like Drift and Calendly making announcements. No, I noticed that Calendly is bidding on the chili pepper keyword. So, until now,
it means that you're doing the right thing.
Yeah, that's right. Exactly. So now we think the market is maturing and more offerings will be there, and we have to have a broader offering that's compelling. So that's our number one challenge is to build this line of products that is full platform. And the second piece is what we said earlier. The self-serve motion is something that is very powerful and that we've under-invested in, and so we want to invest more in the self-serve motion. I think it's a bit overstated. There are companies. If you look at a company like Outreach in your space, they never had a self-serve motion, and they're reasonably successful, right? As I'm sure you know well. So you can succeed without it, but if you have the opportunity to be in a business where you can make it work, then why not? You should make it work. So these are our two challenges. We're broadening our product line, and we're going to make our self-serve motion work. But I'm very excited. We're taking all the right steps right now. That's one of the reasons why we're not raising money. Is people come to us and say, "I feel like wait until you see what we have in the works. You'll be amazed, and then we'll talk."
That's nice. And
do you find yourself? So you've done that self-serve motion really, really well at Lemlist, right?
Yeah.
Do you find yourself being able to compete with Outreach by growing the teams and having them stay with you?
Yeah, it's actually like our challenge right now. So we've seen companies switching from Outreach to us, like companies like Zendesk, etc. Like because we had like some unique features that they didn't really have or wanted to deploy. But it's very much of a challenge right now for us to really like step up, and go a bit more up market, because we're seeing some companies who are like fine and upselling and adding seats as their sales team is growing, and others that are a bit limited sometimes, with typically this type of things like SSO, OTCA, like all those things that I never wanted to look at just because I wanted to be focused. But right now it's really part also of our growth and strategy in the next years, as we're doing also the same of expanding into multi-products, but to have like this kind of leveling up, I would say, in terms of all the things that SMBs or early enterprise would need. But definitely right now we crossed 10 million in ARR about like 4 or 5 months ago, and we are 50 something.
Wow, that's a good ratio.
Yeah,
revenues to
pretty
employees.
pretty good revenue per employee.
I can tell you've not had to be around like us.
But the goal, it's to scale as well.
And you have a big announcement coming. That's what I've been told on the product side.
Product side, we have a few big announcements that we're gonna keep a bit secret for the next 6 months, I think. But it's quite exciting.
It's a long. It's an eternity. 6 months you have to wait.
It is. So the marketing team is getting ready. That's the nice part. And I was really curious because you've also co-founded multiple business before. And in this podcast, I love to also share, the tough times as an entrepreneur, because it's not only, positive times. It's a lot of up and downs, lots of roller coasters. So what were for you 2 to 3 things that were really difficult during that time of being an entrepreneur, and your learnings from these times?
So the hard part of entrepreneur is always to find a product market fit, right? As Mark Andreessen famously said, is find something that people want, or a program, we say that. But sometimes, so it has happened to me that the market has turned on me. So I mentioned the one recently where Salesforce bought 2 of my competitors. Yeah. So there are things you can't control. And so the big lesson is to be very clear on what is it you can control and what you cannot control. So what are the trends that are stronger than you, and what are the things you can influence? Because fundamentally, as an entrepreneur, you want to it's your job to change the world, right? As Steve Jobs would say, right? So in your case, it's your job to do an outreach tool that's much more friendly, that works better, that converts, and you're going to change that. And if you don't have a certain amount of faith, then you know to move anywhere. But faith has to be, it has to be, I'm looking for the word, not reasonable, but aware of the environment. So it has happened to me. I've had a story since you mentioned my past. Earlier in my career, that was like a massive exposure to that reality is when I did my second company. It was a .com in the late 90s. Okay. And I went from $0 to $5 million in booking, $5.5 million in booking, and 65 employees in 11 months.
Wow.
Yeah. Right.
That's
we
huge.
Did something, and struggled. We found product market fit, and we hired people. At the time, money was abundant. We had a VC come in. We didn't raise that much money. We really had told people prepay for other things. The problem is that it was 1999.
Just before 2000.
Exactly, that was the problem. And of course, that cliff of 2000, nobody saw it. Nobody could believe it would happen. Even when it started, people said, it's okay. And then the entire market collapsed. So the funding froze. So all my customers went bankrupt because they had no funding, right? We all operated in the model that money is abundant. You just spend money, don't worry. So my customers started going under one after the other. But before that happened, early 2000, February 2000, I had an offer to buy my company for 60 million. So back 20 years ago, 60 million was even
That's
more.
Huge.
And I had 3/4 of the company. I had bootstrapped. I had mostly bootstrapped with my own money that I benched from the previous company. So here I am sitting on, for $45 million in my letter of intent, thinking the world is great. It was 13 months into it. And then the market turned, the letter of intent disappeared.
Oh,
I had to lay off 35 of my 65 people. We're down to 30. Then I had to lay off more people. And in the end, I did what's called an asset deal with Microsoft, which means that they take your assets.
Okay.
It's synonymous for bad exits. It's like people don't want to take you on. They just pick the pieces that are good and let you die. So I actually literally had to shut down the company. I did these things. Some of my engineers were super happy. They have big career. Some of them went on to Amazon because Microsoft moved very rich to Seattle. So there's some big careers. So at least some people made the most of it. But for me, it was quite extreme, right? And there was not so much I could have done, right? When all your customers go bankrupt, you have no revenues. It's very hard to control. So what I did is that. I know one of your questions on your podcast is how do you find yourself to recover from these hard times? Mm-hmm. I went to walk in Nepal for 3 weeks.
Wow!
So I went to walk in the mountains, and a friend of mine recommended it. He said, when you walk, your mind clears, and it's exactly what happened. You feel you're in the mountains. You think it doesn't matter. You see people poorer than you are, and you think, what am I complaining about? So it's a thing that, as you know, I remember with Alina in the early days of Chili Pepper, where the directions were unclear and we didn't know how different players were going to play. We'd walk around the block in Culver City and walk and walk and walk. Like half the time we strategize, half the time we just breathe. So that was the big lesson. The lesson is that you have to try really hard, but you have to be very realistic. So it's realistic. That's the word I was looking for. Realistic faith is the key one. Yeah.
Yeah, not blind faith.
That's right. Not blind faith. Exactly. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And I'm curious because your co-founder is also your wife. How has it been dealing the business with her through the ups and downs? Do you break from talking about business, or is it always because it's your passion? It's cool to talk about it, and you're really sharing that.
I'll tell you, Guillaume, since you're French, I'll tell you the joke. I was at an investor conference, and somebody asked a question: "What is it like to work with your wife?" And I said, "It's great. We talk about work over dinner, and we fuck in the office."
All right.
No, it's going great. We got together. Alina was climbing the ladder of corporate America, developing amazing products. She was VP. She was doing mobile at Bloomberg, and she did Pearson. She has a super strong background in product development. She's obviously very, very astute when it comes to go-to-market. So we have a strong respect for each other. Nice. And we find that when we disagree, it means that neither of us is right.
Yeah.
There's something not quite right that we haven't perceived, and we always work it out. So it's a
very prolific relationship.
Yeah, that's right. You have a partner also, right? So starting because the previous company, as I mentioned, the one where I started alone.
Yeah.
And you get a lot of advice. A programmer says we don't like single founders, and there's a good reason for it. It's very difficult on your own to take the distance and not think things personally. So when it's your wife, it's make it much easier to share information. Also, we never complain when the other one comes home late from work, right?
Yeah,
because we understand why.
Yeah,
so that's really helpful in our family. Yeah,
I like this answer. And you mentioned you were a solo founder. I know we have in our listeners also a lot of people who are getting started. Sometimes they don't have co-founders. So for people who are just starting solo, what would be kind of your advice, because you also built some successful companies on your own? So
that's super tricky because I've had many people look for a co-founder and completely fail. So, and by completely fail, I mean, what happened is that they find something that they think is great, they get in business with a person, and things don't work out. And that's even more detrimental than being on your own, right? Like if you start a company and it's a mess and you have to deal with that headache. So it's a very fine line. What I would think is that I had one experience that worked really well. My second company, the one I talked about, where we grew from 0 to 65 people and 5.5 million bookings. When I started, I wanted to find talented engineers to build the software, and I've got an email from somebody looking for an internship. It was this guy from Polytechnic. So that's how he reached out to me. I said, okay, come do an internship. And the guy was so incredibly talented that I think 6 months into it, I said, I'm going to make you my co-founder and CTO. Right. So that worked well because it became my co-founder from my work with them. Nice. And I think that's probably a better approach, is that to find people you think are going to really very well, not make them co-founder, get them started, and then say, okay, that person can be my co-founder. And of course, it's not 50-50, obviously, but there's enough stake that the person takes ownership and can share the burden with you. So that's what I would recommend. If you can find somebody, hire the best person for the different jobs. And if you can find somebody who's so excellent that you think that person can be my partner in carrying this company, then that's a likely way to work better. Because looking for a co-founder, I see more failures than successes.
Yeah, I agree. Well, that was really awesome. Tons of learnings. To wrap up the episode, I usually like ask a couple of questions. First one being, what's your favorite book or podcast for entrepreneurs?
So the book, they are for entrepreneurs that I recommend to everybody is Never Split the Difference. If you've seen that book, we're very sales driven. So I think it's such an awesome book for salespeople. The blog that I've read a lot as when I started company is Paul Graham's blog. So it's old stuff, but it's still the reference for entrepreneurs. I think everybody should read the Paul Graham blog. Now there's this new one by the podcast by Dharmesh Shah, who the co-founder of HubSpot. He has a YouTube channel that he started not long ago, and he addresses entrepreneurial issues. The guy is super smart. I'm super impressed. I'm sure you're impressed by him also. Right? He's going HubSpot.
HubSpot is a huge success story.
1.7 billion ARR, stuff we'd love to do. So these are the resources that I recommend. And then I would add this nonviolent communication book that you and I discussed earlier. I know it's not directly related to entrepreneurship, but if you can have a more peaceful life internally and with your partners, then for sure you're more likely to succeed. So in the end, you have to invest in yourself.
Definitely. The second question I have is who's your favorite founder?
That's a good one. I would have said Bezos.
Okay.
I think he just nailed it. We've taken a lot of ideas from him on how to make decisions, how to run meetings, how to architect our software, with his services. He had the idea of microservices before people thought of it. I see he consistently make the right move. I would say Bezos. Now, obviously, Elon Musk is a spectacular entrepreneur, but with Elon Musk, it feels so amazing that it's not even worth looking at. Like the guy comes up with things.
He's an alien,
an alien, exactly. So it's not interesting because he's literally on a different planet. Well, Bezos, you think that the decision he make, it seems like I could make, I plan to make. So I just, funnily enough, ran into him 2 days ago at a dinner in New York. So I'll post that photo with very nice.
Awesome. The final question is more about where can people follow you, follow your journey, and check Chili Piper?
So Chili Piper, of course, on our website. We of course, use our own product. So if you want to talk to us, you can come and fill a form and book a meeting in one click.
Nice.
As I mentioned, we sell to enterprise, but even small businesses should get onto our inbound solution early on. As for me, I mostly publish on LinkedIn. So that's probably the best way to come and follow me.
We will put the link of your profile. Well, Nicolas, thanks a lot for your time and sharing all these value bombs, and have an awesome day.
Sure. Thank you.
Thank you for listening to the Bootstrap Stories, the only podcast where bootstrap entrepreneurs share their journey in all transparency. If you enjoyed this episode, don't hesitate to leave us a review. And in case you want to see the interview, all episodes are live on the YouTube channel. Check out the link in the description and hit subscribe if you haven't already. Have an amazing day, and make sure to also join us in our amazing Bootstrap community where we all helped each other to become successful and grow a profitable business. Take care and talk to you soon.